Okay, welcome back for another video. We are one step closer to installing Configuration Manager than the last video. We are almost there. This video I want to talk about the pre-requirements or prerequisites for Configuration Manager, and we are going to use a tool. So because there are so much stuff that Configuration Manager needs to have before we actually starting the installation. So if I open here this web page, this is site and site system prerequisites for Configuration Manager. It lists all the requirements for every single server that we're going to use. Before, all the requirements we have done was down to the SQL server. Now we are looking at the servers that will be part of Configuration Manager. And you can see here kind of index on the right-hand side. We have general requirements, .NET, CAS and primary site, secondary site, database, SMS provider, and many other site system rows. All those asset intelligence synchronization point, measuring point, reporting services point, and so on and so forth. For us, what is important is right now, we are going to just install the base configuration manager without any extras. We are not going to install any site system rows. We need to know the .NET and all the information required for the site server because the SQL is already being taken care of. So if I go here on the central administration site and primary site server, we see here Windows features. So .NET 3.5, RDC. If we're going to use for software updates, we need to have the WSUS console or the whole WSUS installed. We're going to look at this. We need to have the ADK. We need to have the C++. We need to have the SQL Server native client. So there are loads of stuff. There is another documentation also that says how to prepare for the Windows Server to support Configuration Manager. So this also explains a little bit more in depth some of the requirements for example, background intelligent services that for measurement point. And here down, tell about the IIS that's required for distribution point. So the IIS request filtering. But there is so much that we need to actually know. And of course, we always forget something. So because of this, Configuration Manager has a tool, is a Prerequisites Checker. So this tool will actually tell us what's wrong before we start installing Configuration Manager. So we get this tool from the Configuration Manager media, is on the SMS setup being x86, and he explains how to copy to another computer and so on. But the whole idea is we run the Configuration Manager site server, and we need to use some specific command lines. If you are going to use CAS, we are going to use /CAS. In your case, because it's a primary site, we're going to use /pre. We need to use the /SDK and /SQL for endpoint which configuration manager servers will take that role. And of course, we have more options here. And it's going to be in a specific UI. So you can see here a image of that. Is going to tell you what's wrong, if there is anything wrong with Configuration Manager. And it's not just one or two checks. There is a plenty of checks that this tool will analyze. Here a full list of the checks. As far as I recall, is over 70 checks that will be carried out by this tool to check if the Configuration Manager can be installed or not. And finally, before we actually run the tool, there is this documentation that's the port used by Configuration Manager. Remember, if you install in a single server, it's going to be all local. But if you install in multiple servers, all the servers need to communicate between each other. And here is a list of all the ports used by Configuration Manager. If we go down here on the site server, We can see here the site server to asset intelligence synchronization point client, but somewhere here, a little bit down, where is SQL? Here. So you can see that we need the port 1433 open. Also, it tells what other ports we may require or we will be requiring. In this case, we need SMB, RPC, and the RPC dynamic. So those are basically some ports that we need to have open. And Configuration Manager will tell for everything what ports need to be open and when. Okay? So that's it for documentation. So what we need to do now is on the Configuration Manager server, I have logged on as the SCCM admin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add or add the DVD. So just put the Configuration Manager DVD or the ISO, and then I will have access to the whole installation of the whole source files installation of Configuration Manager. But before we go there, let me show you exactly what I did with Configuration Manager server. So this server here, it has 16 gig of RAM and 4 virtual CPU. So 16 and 4 CPU. For a lab environment is more than enough. For an environment that is not a lab, it may not be enough. So check the other videos where I put some links out there for the planning, so we will see exactly how much memory is required. Also, I split it in some drives. So the C drive is the OS, the D drive where I'm going to install the configuration manager and any other file required, the binaries. Then the E drive is where I'm going to have part of the configuration manager is the SCCM content library. And the F drive is where I'm going to have some files. So this, for example, Firefox, Internet Explorer installer, or Edge right now. I'm going to have the Windows 10 installation media, all those kind of stuff. This is my source. And but that's it for now. So let's run the tool. So what I'm going to do is open a command prompt as administrator. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to change for the DVD drive is on the Z, and I'm going to the SMS setup. So if I use the tab, it actually helps me to navigate. Bin and X64. And here, if I do a dir pre-star, it's going to show actually every single file that starts with PRE. So in this case, we have here the prereqcheck.exe. And I'm going to use this too. So instead of typing everything, I just type the first 3 words and use the tab. It's going to allow me to go quickly to that file. And I'm going to just type that, and you can see here all the parameters I can use. And here has on the top a small example. So what I need is I'm going to check a primary site. So I'm going to be /pri, my SQL server, and here you can see the SQL server is the server. I need to pass the server name. In this case, it's srv002 endpointmanagers.com, and my SDK server is the SMS provider. We are going to talk about this later on. It's going to be on the same site, same server as configuration manager. So srv003.endpointmanagers.com. And before we actually press enter here, let me open the C drive. And on the C drive, you can see here there is no log files. Any log files created by this tool will be saved on the C drive. So if I press enter, you can see here it start already looking for something. And I can see here on the C drive there is a log that's already been created and will still be created until the tool finish. And everything that is wrong will be shown on this list. On this list we have warnings that something that is wrong, but may not be wrong. Maybe that you're not going to use that feature. And now it's not actually a error. And here we have errors. Errors means we cannot continue until you fix this problem. So because this tool will take probably about half an hour, 10 minutes to half an hour, depends on how quickly is the environment. I will just pause the video and let it run so that you're actually not actually looking. Have it finished? Have it finished? No, it's going to be quite quick. But before I pause the video, use this time to like the video, share with your friends and co-workers, and of course, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to the channel. Any questions, any comments, just leave in the comment section below. And for easy me to find if it's a question, just use the hashtag #AskRaphael. That's going to be easier for me to find out. So about 15 minutes later, it has finished. So we can see here there's lots of problems. Some related to server 03, some related with server 02. You can see there is loads of problems. I will pick up one specifically, that is this minimum.NET version. And if you just get the text and you go back to the documentation, you can have here on the Prerequisite Checker the checklist. We can see exactly what is the problem. So minimum.NET version, we can say, you can see here what is actually saying you need to have at least version 4, or on terms of the site server, we need to have 3.5 installed and enabled. So the documentation will show you everything that's needed. Also, this tool is actually telling you what is required. You don't need to have the documentation. And if you have run the tool before, you want to see exactly what is the problem, you can just open the config mgr prerec.log. And you can see here at the beginning there is info. You can see lots of information. Let's get a error here. So if I just search for error, you can see here you will have the error on checking the RDC. And you can see here on server 03, the RDC is not there. So you can actually go back. You don't need the UI to see. But this is enough for this video. We are going to start fixing problems on the next video. But before we go there, remember, just like, share with your co-workers, and of course, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the next video.